Last week I mentioned how Ohio State was loaded as we approached the 2024 season. And then they went out and hired Bill O'Brien to be their offensive coordinator. And then they went out and grabbed two former Alabama players in the transfer portal by the names of Caleb Downs and Julian Sayin. All three of these gentlemen will have impacts for Ohio State in the present and the future. Let's discuss.
From LA to Piscataway, all Big Ten all year long. This is Big Ten 10.
We've got a saying here in the Midwest. If you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes, it'll change. There might be a saying surrounding this Buckeye football program in the state of Ohio. If you don't like the results, spend $5 million and maybe the results will change. Because it is very clear to me that this Ohio State program, the boosters and the collective and the people supporting Ohio State have made it clear that they are willing to put together NIL packages. They are willing to do what it takes to acquire the talent for Ohio State to win a Big Ten championship, for Ohio State to make a run in the college football playoff and possibly win a national championship. Ryan Day put a dollar figure on what it's going to take for a program like Ohio State to remain competitive at the level that they want to be at. And now around that same dollar figure, that's what's being reported, where Ohio State is throwing money around in the $13 million range to keep this roster around and then to get pieces like a Will Howard, like a Quinshon Judkins, like a Caleb Downs, like a Julian Sayin for the future of Buckeye football. Whether you like it or whether you don't, if you're a fan of Ohio State, I'm sure you're loving it right now. But this is what you need to do to compete at the highest level of college football, to get that type of talent in your program and in your building. Let's talk about the first of the three of these impact guys that are going to step foot in Columbus, Ohio. I want to start on the defensive side of the football. I want to first talk about Caleb Downs. The great freshman safety had a tremendous freshman season at Alabama, and I just love watching him play. When I watch his film, this guy gets shot out of a cannon when he approaches the line of scrimmage to defend against the run. When you look at a team normally and you see a safety lead the team in tackles and have as many tackles as Caleb Downs had last year for Alabama, there might be some concern maybe about the unit as a whole. But Alabama's front seven was pretty good. I think it just speaks more and emphasizes more of the talent that Caleb Downs is and just the many things he's able to do. What he's able to do back in pass coverage, and then what he's able to do in run support, approaching the line of scrimmage, playing like a linebacker almost. And that's where I want to transition a little bit. That's where I want to kind of tie these things together. Because in my video last week, I talked about, hey, defensive line coming back for Ohio State is really, really good. Secondary coming back. That was the number one pass defense in the country. That secondary got a lot of guys coming back. Linebacker was the concern. Tommy Eichenberg, Steele Chambers, all Big Ten type of linebackers not going to be there next year. Cody Simon, C.J. Hicks, can they step up into that role? Well, I'll say this. I think Caleb Downs helps because of his ability to attack the line of scrimmage and run support, his ability to step up and be a sure tackler. I think it's going to help out this run defense, and I think it's going to help out this linebacking core because when I watch him on film, he's got the speed, the aggressiveness. He plays and pursues to the football like a linebacker as well. It would not surprise me to see Jim Knowles and this Ohio State defensive coaching staff do multiple different things and line Caleb Downs up in multiple different spots. Blitz him, right? Of course, send him back in coverage. Do many different things, line him up into many different spots instead of just at the traditional safety spot because that's his game. He has such a versatile game back there, and he's going to be a huge impact player for this Ohio State defense as well. Last thing about Caleb Downs. Once again, as I led off in the top of the video, what Ohio State, the investment they are making to be a top team, to be a national championship caliber team in college football. Caleb Downs is from the state of Georgia. When he entered the portal, I think a lot of people assumed he was going to stay in the SEC and he was going to go to play for Kirby Smart at Georgia. But him coming up north to the Big Ten just proves once again the investment that Ohio State is making, not only in 2024, but in the future, right? Because Caleb Downs has got a couple of years ahead of him here in Columbus, Ohio. Let's switch from defense to the offensive side of the football. When we talk about the future, Julian Sayin might be the future. And the future is starting in 2025 at the quarterback position. But 2024 is going to start the battle for 2025 because Ohio State could have remained complacent. They could have sat and said, well, we got Will Howard for the 1 year for 2024. Okay, we got Aaron Noland, a quarterback that we're really excited about in this class of 2024. You still got Devin Brown and Lincoln Keenholz in this quarterback room. They could have sat back on their heels and you'd say, you know what? We're good. We're happy about the future. We're happy about the present. We're happy about everything in this quarterback room. But they encouraged competition. Caleb Downs is going to encourage competition on that defense. Julian Sayin is going to encourage competition within this quarterback room as well, because we're going to see a lot of progress reports, who's better, who's not as good, that type of thing as we go through the summer, as we approach fall camp, as we go through fall camp in Columbus. A lot of people are going to be comparing Julian Sayin to Aaron Noland. That's going to be a big storyline throughout all of 2024 because competition is just going to make both of these guys that much better. I think these are the types of guys you want in your room. Aaron Noland and his camp is saying, we're not going anywhere. We're here to stay. And that's the type of attitude you want at a top program like an Ohio State. That's the way college football works with the transfer portal, with roster acquisition nowadays. If there is a top player available and you are a top program, you go out and you get that top player. Absolutely no question about it. You combine, Julian Sayin with Jeremiah Smith. The future's in good hands in Columbus, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Let's talk about that offense and let's talk about the system. Bill O'Brien coming in as the offensive coordinator at Ohio State. The first thing that I want to separate professional NFL Bill O'Brien with college Bill O'Brien, because a lot of people might think, and maybe there's some thoughts that creep into their mind that aren't great about how his tenure ended as head coach with the Houston Texans, what's happened especially recently with the New England Patriots as well. But if you look at his college resume, now it's certainly not as extensive in the number of years as his NFL resume is, but look what he was able to do after that scandal at Penn State. He was hired as the head coach there, and I think they went 8-4 in that first year when everybody could transfer out of the program, and there wasn't movement where they could bring in players at that point. He was able to stabilize that program at that moment in time. But what I really want to focus in on is, what have you done for me lately? 2021 and 2022. In 2021, first year as the offensive coordinator under Nick Saban at Alabama, he was able to come in and produce a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. It was Bryce Young's very first year on campus in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Over 4,800 yards and 47 touchdowns that season for a first-year starting quarterback. Now you might think, Ted, didn't you talk about the run game? Didn't you talk about Will Howard and his read abilities, his RPO abilities, 9 touchdowns for Kansas State last season? Did you talk about Trevion Henderson when he's healthy being one of the best running backs in the Big Ten? What about Quinshon Judkins as well? That's a dynamic backfield, isn't it? It is. It is. And if you look at 2021, Brian Robinson rushed for 1,300 yards that season. So just because Alabama was explosive and dynamic through the pass game that year, this is still an offense that can still promote and produce a good rushing attack as well. And they're going to need that. And I think Bill O'Brien is going to recognize that this is a really, really good run game. What I want to see, we saw the development of Bryce Young in his first year. I want to see what Bill O'Brien is going to do in developing Will Howard, how quickly he can get Will Howard in sync with what he wants to do. Now, Brian Hartline is still going to be co-offensive coordinator. Bill O'Brien takes over the quarterbacks. Of course, Brian Hartline still sticking with the wide receivers, as he should do until the end of time. But I want to see exactly what the development is with Will Howard. How can you get Will to that next level, that standard that we talk about that Ohio State fans are so used to out of their quarterbacks as well? Bill O'Brien, and maybe in collaboration with Brian Hartline, has the ability, right, with what they were able to do at Alabama just a few years back in 2021 and 2022. How can he develop these young receivers and put them in a good situation is another thing I have my eye on as well. Emeka Egbuka, we know what he can do. We know he's a great talent. After that, you get to these recruiting classes the last couple of years that have been stellar, according to 24/7 Sports, according to On3, according to Rivals, according to the services, they've been stellar. How can we translate those stars into yards and touchdowns in Big Ten football games? That's what I want to see Bill O'Brien start to produce in collaboration, of course, with Brian Hartline when we talk about these wide receivers. When we talk about the Carnell Tate, when we talk about the Brandon Ennis's, when we talk about the Jeremiah Smiths, the true freshmen, and the many others that are on this roster, that are in this system, there are some moving pieces. There are some new pieces to this puzzle on the offensive side of the ball. Can Bill O'Brien bring it all together? That's going to be the question. Is he going to be the piece on the coaching staff on offense to really boost up this offense for next season as well? Bill O'Brien, I think, is going to do a good job. I think he is going to give a boost for this Ohio State offense. Just how much of a boost? That is to be determined. Because how is he? Well, I don't think you can make this offense the exact same as it was at Alabama. Right? You need to evolve and you need to adapt a little bit. Will Howard is not Bryce Young, right? The talent doesn't exactly match up tick for tack. You need to take a look at what you have. You got a great run game. You've got good young wide receivers. Your offensive line is the question mark. Are they going to try to neutralize this offensive line a little bit by getting the ball out in space quicker and maybe doing more RPOs and read stuff in the run game as well? That's one thing. But I think Bill O'Brien is a great step once again in the right direction for this Ohio State team as we approach 2024. Who knows? Maybe another week or two will go by and Ohio State will add even more pieces to this team. But these are pieces that can not only further Ohio State and their championship aspirations for 2024, but also keep this team at the top of college football for 2025 and beyond.
Thanks for watching Big Ten TED, where it's all Big Ten all year long. Make sure to like the video to spread the word of Big Ten TED to the masses, and subscribe to the channel for updates on Big Ten content that drops every day.